Hey, you guys, this is Michelle, broadcasting live again. And today is day 10 of 30. So it is getting kind of late. It's 8 o'clock at night, and I am going to wait a few minutes to see if anybody's going to log on, and then we'll get started. So, if not, and you're watching the replay, that's fine. Um, what I would like to see, oh, good, we're starting to get some people on now. What I'd like to see, you guys, if you don't mind, there's been a lot of issues with Facebook Gel lately. So, hey, Linda, how are you doing? Anyways, there's been a lot of issues with Facebook Gel, and if you don't know what that means, it kind of means that you sort of get blocked out. You know, when you get a lot of viewers and a lot of people that come on, and all of a sudden you start noticing nobody's commenting. Um, so, if you don't mind, if this is the first time that you've ever watched one of my shows, then say first. And if this is the first, if you're watching the slide, put in a 1. If you're watching a replay, put in 2. And anyway, so here we go. We're going to get started since we've already got a few people logging on. So today is day 30 of Spiritual Bliss. And this one, we're going to talk about something that actually, I'm not a huge person that gets on, hey, April, how are you? I'm not one that sits there and talks about religion. I'm more about spirituality, about being the best person that you can be. But I grew up in a church, and so I did know a lot about the Bible. So I love some of the quotes that Christ actually said. So I'm going to throw some out there. So if any of you guys are atheist or agnostic or anything, don't beat me over the head. Okay. So it's just a quote. I will quote Buddha sometimes, and everybody else that I'll quote the Tao Te Ching and everything. So anyway, so here we go. There's a quote in the Bible that says, "Seek and you shall find." Now, I want to kind of take it on a different level, okay? If you're looking for something, you're gonna find it. I remember years ago when I was in a relationship that was not very good. It was a long time ago. It was way before I completely healed. And he was always pointing out my faults. And I said, if you're constantly looking, if you're always looking, you're gonna find them. So, but if you look for the good things, you're gonna find a lot of good things too. So, think about that for a second. If you are always looking for something that is bad in a person or bad going on in your life, or I love to talk about men drivers, because my husband's one of them, and he is so much of a road rage person that I literally have to go like this when I'm driving, when I'm in the car with him. I mean, I grab my phone and I take my head and I go like this, because he drives crazy, and I noticed that, I got in the car with my son not too long ago, and he was driving like that. And I was just like, oh my God, what is wrong with you guys, And so, and what I hear from them is like, well, that person just cut me off, or that person just did this, or that person did that. And I find it interesting that if you're constantly looking for a reason to be upset, like as soon as you get in the car, those people are going to be driving bad, so you're going to get upset. You're looking to get that road rage, you're going to find it. If you are looking to find something bad in your life, if you're looking for bad things, you're going to find it. If you feel that people are mean, nasty, hateful, or negative, or whatever, if you think that somebody's gonna come across a certain way, and you just know it, I'm gonna have to go to that party, I'm gonna have to see that person, and they're so negative, you're gonna find that. It's like whatever it is, that you seek out, you're going to find. But it's also the opposite. If you seek out and you start looking for things and you seek out, and this is very similar to what I was talking about the other day, but I really wanted you to kind of look at it from slightly different, because I was talking about what you focus on. I'm talking about what you're seeking. What are you looking for? Okay. So, if we take this, into the more spiritual realm and we say, I am looking for answers. I'm looking to find God. I'm looking for spiritual truth. If you start seeking, you will find things. I find that when I start questioning something and I go, okay, this isn't making sense and I want to know more. I want to know why they're saying this, or why this, why that. So a little bit of history about me is I was raised in a Baptist church. I mean, the Baptist church didn't raise me, but it felt like it. And anyway, my parents were very religious. And we went to church every Sunday night, every Wednesday night. I belonged to GMAs, which was Girls Missionary Auxiliary. It's kind of like a Bible Girl Scouts. And I was very, very active as in junior high and high school. And so there was some bad stuff that happened in the church, and I walked away. And when I did, I remember actually, like, I got in my own apartment, and I decided I just needed to know the truth. And I figured, well, if those guys in the Bible meditated and they spoke to God, then I was going to do it. And I had never meditated in my life. I had no idea what that was like. I didn't even really even know if I even understood what meditation was. It was just a place that maybe you got quiet and you talked to God. So I was under the impression that if I just did that God would speak to me. So that's what I did. I laid down on my bed and I closed my eyes and I basically started praying, and I said, God, please just tell me the truth. Just show me the truth. Just show me the truth. And so what ended up happening was, as I'm laying there, nothing really happened. And soon I ran into a book, and I'm trying to remember the name of it, L. Ron Hubbard, Dianetics. And I read the book, and it was a very complicated book at the time. And I started reading it, and I was like, oh, this is the truth. God sent me in this direction. But right after that, next thing I know, somebody starts talking to me about Mormonism, So I was like, oh, that's the truth. And then, and it just kept on going on. I was like, I felt like I was being drawn over here, and then drawn over here, and then drawn over here. And it was like I kept on saying, what is the truth? And then suddenly I'd be drawn over here. Well, what I realized over the years was that truth is in the eye of the beholder. And so when I was asking for it, I was being shown everything. And so truth is everything. So it was interesting. Now I'm losing my voice, you guys. I'm sorry about that. So it was interesting because what I ended up discovering is that as I put my mind into something, and still to this day, it happens. So as I've moved all over the place and discovered all different kinds of things and learned a lot, I started learning about ancient texts and that were older than the Bible. And so first thing I found out about was the Dead Sea Scrolls, and then just all kinds of them. And I was reading all these different ones, lost books of the Bible and everything, but books that were dated, because they didn't even write anything down about the story about Christ until 200 years after he died. And that was Paul who did it. And Paul was kind of shady anyway. So, it was it was quite interesting. And then it was like 80 years after Paul wrote that. And that actually, 200 years. Wait a second, hold on a second. It's 200 years afterwards, and they were writing the story of Paul. So the story of Paul was actually kind of taken down through word of mouth, and he was the one that was talking about it. And then I think it was John that wrote it after that. Anyway, I'm not like super knowledgeable about date lines and stuff, but I do know that nothing was written for 200 years. Now, supposedly, there was some stuff that was actually written during that time that he actually had his some of his loyal disciples write down, and then it was hidden in a cave, and then it was found later, and it's called the Talmud of Emmanuel, and it's interesting. It's really quite an interesting read, by the way, and that was supposed to be written exactly at the time. So as I'm looking and I'm seeking and I'm looking, for truth, it's like all these things keep on coming up. I mean, it was recent that I found this thing about the Taliban. I mean, literally like maybe 2 weeks ago that I found out about that. It's Talmud of Emmanuel, and it was actually found in a cave. And it was interesting because there was a guy, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Billy Meyer case, but he was actually told where to find it and where it was and all that kind of stuff by people he was communicating with. So now as I'm seeking, I keep on finding out more stuff. So I mean, I went into this whole thing and I started learning about the Sumerian text and then the Macedonian text. And then next thing I know, I'm way over here, learning about stuff about the Palladians and everything. And I mean, it's interesting, because you don't know what's really right or what's wrong and what's true and what's not true. But these are ancient writings that people wrote down. I mean, way before, and it's sometimes the story is so similar than to some of the other stuff that makes you kind of go, But why does this stuff keep on surfacing in my life? Well, it's because I seek it. So if you're really interested in learning something and you really want to get more knowledge about something, all you have to do is start seeking it, because the universe has a way of bringing to you everything that you want. So if you're looking for answers for something, you're going to find that the universe is just going to bring it to you. And thank you guys, I appreciate that. And it'll just start coming to you. The more that you seek, the more you're going to end up finding. So you guys that are just logging on, I do suggest that you watch the replay, because there was a little bit of stuff that I was talking about that you missed. If you are logging on for the first time, you've never seen any of my stuff, put a 1 in here. If you're watching a replay, put 2. I know I see probably close to 20 people on here or more that hasn't even put a 1 in here. And if you see me before, just put a thumbs up, and then we can kind of go from there. I just want to kind of see, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm not in Facebook jail. Okay, so there was this whole thing one of my friends did on Facebook jail, and I didn't even know what that was, and so I was like, what? I just noticed recently that I was getting so many comments on my videos, and people were just commenting back and forth, and then suddenly I see all these people logging on, but nobody's saying anything. So it was interesting. So I thought, well, possibly it was Facebook jail. So anyways, it would be quite appreciated if you do just say new to Michelle or 1 or whatever you want to say. And are you watching the replay? So you can put a 2. Anyway, so back to what I was saying is that we're talking about spiritual things here. And over the past week, I've been doing it on basics, okay? I've been talking about being kind, forgiving, all the basic stuff that most people would think that you need to do. But it's interesting because I know a lot of people I knew a lot of people. And most people have that problem. You know, most people have that problem. I know an older woman, not going to say names, but this particular older woman is probably one of the most loving women I've ever met. And she was very godly and very moral in her actions and her behavior. But it took her a really long time to really learn the art of forgiveness. And it wasn't too long ago that um, she and I were having a conversation, and she said, "Somebody very wise told me a long time ago that forgiveness will bring you peace." And it was interesting because I was having a moment, and she said that. And I was like, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I'm going there. And and it's funny. So even me, I have moments too. And I will say that I do truly, really, really try to practice what I preach. And I really try so hard. And I would say I probably fall into the 90 something percentile because I do have those moments every so often, where I get a little annoyed with something or upset about something. But in the most part, I'm pretty good about forgiving and understanding and loving and being kind and all that kind of stuff. So I was talking mostly in the past about your basic stuff. But like I said, most people have a hard time with that. And even people that are hardcore Christians and people that are supposedly super religious, it doesn't matter. Maybe you're a Muslim. Maybe you're, a Jehovah Witness or something or whatever. I mean, your religion doesn't make you spiritual. It doesn't make you connected to God. It's your heart that does. It's what you're doing with yourself inside. It's the way that you are in this world. So a lot of people don't really understand what spiritual means, Well, for you to really have spirituality is about really connecting in that oneness, being able to be connected with whatever it is you deem you call God. Now, my personal belief is more like the I am presence, more like the collective consciousness, or the no that God's in you, and there's an omnipresence, and that is all over the place, and it's in everything, and it's this like a consciousness. And the best way that I can explain it would be like there's a consciousness in every cell in your body. So for instance, a molecule, well, let's go with a what is it called, an atom. No, it has, okay, so anyway, so you've got a proton, and it has electrons that move around it, and it looks like a little mini universe, and that has a consciousness. It has its own consciousness, and it has its own thing that it's going to be doing. Okay, now you get a whole bunch of those together, you create atoms have a consciousness, and it has its own duty and purpose. And you put a bunch of those together, you create cells, and a cell has a consciousness, and it has its own purpose. And then you put a bunch of cells together, and you get an organ. And so the organ itself has a consciousness. That heart by itself has a duty. It has a consciousness. And I just learned the other day, somebody was talking to me about the consciousness of a stomach, and that it's really smart. And we were having a whole conversation about that, about how smart the stomach is, and how intelligent, it behaves. And so each organ and everything in your body has multiple. So when it all comes down to it, you as a whole, this whole being is a collective consciousness of a ton of cells or a ton of molecules. Okay. So then you take me and Joe Blow down the road, and my husband, and everybody in this apartment that I live in, and we would be like a collective because we're living in this particular place that has a name. like the NFL, sorry. That's a collective consciousness. It's like it's a body of sorts that is thinking and practicing and has one thing that they're doing, and it works collectively together. So you get a whole bunch of these collectives and you put them together, and basically like all of nature is a collective, and then you put everything together and you put it on Earth, and then Earth is a collective and it has its own consciousness, and so it goes even further. So then you've got our solar system. So you've got the sun, and you've got these little planets that rotate around it, and inside in that, and I don't know if you guys know this or not. So don't think that oh, Michelle, I knew that, um, but some people don't. So when I heard it for the first time, I was like, really? So our universe, well, not universe, I'm sorry, our solar system is actually moving around in a vortex. Okay, so it's like the sun is in the middle, and these planets are rotating this way, not like this, but like this. Okay, and they're rotating like this, and they're moving through space like in a vortex. And so every 10,000 years, we're in a different part of the universe. So you've got this whole body, and it has a consciousness. Okay, so then you get a whole bunch of those together, and you put it all together, and you've got a whole universe, and that universe has a consciousness. Okay, and then you've got multiple universes, because we're in a multi-universal, and I don't know too much past that. So and all of that has a consciousness, and that consciousness is what I call God. Now, I'm not saying that you have to believe me, and you may choose to want to worship a man on a throne, or somebody, an alien that came down here. Whatever you want to do, you want to worship a Palladian or something, I don't care. Zeus, doesn't matter. I don't really care. That's not my job to tell you what to do or how to believe. But I will say this, that you can tap into that universal energy. Okay, and so like our universe that we live in works in a specific way, and you can tap into that energy, and you can pull from it. Okay, so when you start putting out thoughts and you start seeking, okay, because the topic here is seek and you will find, is when you start really looking for something, you're going to find it, negative or positive. If you're looking for bad in a person, you're going to find it. If you're looking for good in a person, you're going to find it. If you're looking for something that's going to make you grateful, you will find it. If you're looking for answers to a problem, you will find it. If you're looking for more truth behind the history of mankind, and you will find it. I was talking about that earlier, about how I was seeking these answers myself, and somehow or another I ended up finding some new texts that I had never read before. And so I'd always wanted to kind of get into like learning a little bit more about the Sumerian text and Mesopotamian, and started finding, because it's really complicated. Okay, and I'm kind of smart, but I'm not that smart. So I like to watch it on YouTube. It's quite interesting, because a lot of times I'll read it, and then some people, if you find a really good channel, they'll like stop and then kind of, talk about it a little bit and tell you what it means. So kind of give you a little bit of a perspective, from that. And then I ran into recently, about a couple of weeks ago, something called the Talmud of Emmanuel. And that was really quite interesting as well. I haven't finished that yet. I'm still working on it. Now, as I was saying, is that it's kind of one of those things, you guys, if you're out there seeking, you're going to find it. Okay. So whether or not it's positive or negative, whatever you're looking for, the universe is going to bring it back to you. Now, I'm not talking about the law of attraction, but it is kind of like the law of attraction. I'm just saying that the universe has a way of giving you what you look for. So I'm not talking about manifesting money. I'm not trying to manifest a car. I'm just saying without even realizing it, if you start putting energy into something, okay, and you're looking for answers, you will find it. And this is actually a really good tool for you if you're wanting to find answers to something. If you really want to know the answers to something and you really just put enough energy and thought into it, it'll start moving in your direction. That means, and I'm not saying it's going to be the right answers, it's just going to be answers. Because if you were listening to me earlier when I was talking, on my journey to finding truth, I felt like every religious thing that was out there came in front of me. So truth was being presented to me, but it didn't mean that, because it was multiple truths, And the reality is that truth is what you decide to put your energy into. So it's my truth, because this is where I'm at. Your truth may be that you live in a glass bubble and that's all you see. And that is your truth. I mean, that's your perspective. That's the only thing you see. I was actually talking to my husband tonight and we were actually having a discussion. He's a private investigator, and we had this whole like plan of how to, format his career. And we're so anyways, we're looking into a lot of different things, and as we were doing this, he said something to me about how we were talking about, police officers and and all that kind of stuff, and how people see, darker sides of life. And he goes, well, he goes, I was going to tell you this, but there's a, so and so and so and so county is hiring for police officers, and he, he hasn't done it because he thought he was too old, and because he's got some tattoos, and he's got like all these different licenses to be able to like high and like to be able to carry a gun and all this other stuff, and to be a bodyguard and be a bounty hunter. And anyway, and so he was like, well, I've got all the creds and everything. There's no reason why they wouldn't hire me. And anyways, they would hire at my age. And I was like, and I told him, I said, look, when you were working at, the high end security, you were always seeing the dark side of life. And it didn't put you in the greatest mood. And so I said, now that you're out there and you're having fun and everything, and you have a lot of free time, I said, you're much happier. And so the point behind this is that as we were talking, we got into this whole discussion about, perception. And he's like, well, Michelle, like that's all you see, that's what you think the world is. So that was his truth. Okay. And I said, well, I don't want it to be your truth. I don't want you to always be focused on that dark side. I want you to be focused on light and love, and, and have fun and be peace, and he's got a bad heart. And so, not like spiritually, but like physically, like he's had a couple of heart attacks. And I said that, it's not necessary that you force yourself into a heart attack because somebody pulls a gun on you or something, and so anyways, we were having this conversation, but this whole thing was mostly about perception. And he's like, Michelle, he goes, in your world, he goes, you're helping people. And he goes, and people come into your office and you see change and you see them progress and you see them like, making this effort, and they become these beautiful flowers, and he goes, so you see a lot of good in life, and he goes, and police officers don't. And I was like, I know, and that's my whole point. Because, and so, so when it comes down to truth is subjective. I mean, it really is. So if you're like a true seeker, then you need to be a little bit more open-minded and watch my video about being open-minded. I don't remember which one it was because I don't think I actually labeled them. But it's, about being open-minded because, if you're closed off, you're not going to find truth. And your truth is going to constantly change. So if you're seeking, those answers are going to come to you. You just got to be willing to look at them, and don't get too attached to them, because if you continue to seek, another answer will come, and it may be something completely different. So like when I was looking into the history of mankind and the truth behind all that, and I ended up getting into all this stuff on the Sumerian text about the Anunnaki and everything. And then I just kept on going, and kept on seeking, and then I ended up getting into the stuff about the Palladians, and you know what's true, what's not true, I don't know. I'm still seeking too, but I do know one thing. I do know something really, really important. I know a lot about spirituality, and I know a lot about how to get the universe to work for you and with you, and how to be able to create and manifest things in your life. I know how to be kind to people, and I know about love, and I truly sit on that, in that space, and I believe that it's all, and what what is it you're putting out is coming back to you. It's kind of like they used to say the word karma, now they call it the law of attraction. So, but if you're kind to people, and you're doing that, and you're out there being a good person, people are going to be nice back to you. And it may not be that person, but it'll be somebody else. It'll come back in a way. Okay. But getting back to our subject about seek and you will find, as long as you're looking, you guys, you will find it. Okay? So if you're looking for answers spiritually, just keep on looking, and you're going to find it. And it may be through me, or it may be through somebody else. I might one day, you're just like, hey, I like listening to Michelle. So, one day you're on my page and you see that I posted something from somebody else, and that may be the person that you really like connects for you. Okay. And I found that happens a lot with me. Like I'll start watching somebody on YouTube or something, and then they bring on somebody, and then that person connects with me. And so all I'm saying to you guys is that, you just get out there and you really start seeking, those answers are going to come to you. Okay. And if you're always looking at the negative stuff in the world and all the bad things in the world, that's all you're going to see, because you'll be locked in your little bubble. Okay. That little bubble of your own truth. And that's it. I was, I think I was talking about this yesterday, but I'm still kind of stuck on this one, because I was just blown away by it. I mean, now I'm laughing about it, but this guy posted on Facebook that people who vape um, are stupid, and that they need to just go smoke a real cigarette. And it was really annoying to me, because cigarettes have like rat poisoning, arsenic, fingernail polish remover. You name it. There's like embalming fluid. I mean, just the fact that you're putting arsenic in your body is enough. Okay. So, anyways, he's like encouraging people to go that direction. And you know how people are sometimes. It's like, hey, if the internet says it's true, so if somebody posts something on a video, it's true. So I was like, oh my God, I can't believe he's doing that. So I made a couple comments about, telling him the facts about vaping, and what's in a cigarette, and the differences, and the pros and cons. And I threw the real facts out there. And he was so like, oh my God, he said that he posted a picture of this guy whose face blew up. And I was like, he didn't write what the story was about. I mean, the guy actually was manipulating his vape and trying to rig it himself, and he didn't know what he was doing, causing an electrical current, and it blew up. And so, people are going to try to do things themselves. What if I decided that I was going to play with the electricity, in my house, and, and it blew up in my face? Am I gonna start blaming, apartments or whatever? Come on. it's, oh, well, you can't live in an apartment because it's going to blow up on you, I mean, it's just stupid stuff. And so sometimes, I mean, that's an example of a person living in their own little world, and, in their own reality and their own belief. And it's very, very closed and narrow because they're not looking at the facts. It's like people in religion, they don't know the facts. I mean, the facts are that, um, so that this was written by men, and these men were being told these stories that were passed down, and they weren't even written for 200 years and after the death of Christ. And then the ones that were actually written during his time weren't even put in the Bible. So, I mean, there's facts out there. And then there's all this stuff on the tombs and everything. I mean, there's a lot more. And truth is that maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not overly attached to that story, either one. And I'm always seeking. I'm always seeking to see if there's something that's going to surface that is going to actually like nail the hammer down and say, hey, here's your proof, Um, and maybe one day it will. But I'm seeking for answers, and I end up finding these old ancient stuff that's written, and it's so amazing and it's so interesting. So because I'm seeking, that's what I end up finding. Okay. If you're seeking out something, you will find it. Okay. And I'm not talking just religion or spirituality. If you're looking for something bad in a person, you're going to find it. I'm losing my voice. Sorry. If you're looking for good in a person, you'll find it. There was a man, I might have told the story before, but there's a man that I know that's married to a woman that I know that was really grumpy. And he liked to pick a lot, and he liked to complain a lot. And it seemed quite annoying quite often. And so, there was a few times I got my feelings hurt, because I felt I was being picked on. And it was just little simple stuff like, oh, you left this over here, blah, blah, blah. And I go, no, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. Or, something like, oh, you didn't, your shoes scratched up my floor. And I'm like, no, they didn't. I walk in here barefooted because I know better. And he's like, yes, you did. No, I didn't. And he would argue with me over stupid stuff like that. Like when I knew very well. When you were cooking, and helping out in the kitchen, you you messed up the pots. They're all scratched up because you used a metal spoon. No, I always use wooden spoons. And it was just, no, you didn't. Yes, you did. No, you didn't. And it was constantly blank, blank, blank. So I got my feelings hurt a couple of times. And this is many years ago, by the way. And I got my feelings hurt. And finally, I decided, I'm going to put this whole thing to a test. And I decided that I was going to, put out this positive energy, and I was only going to look for positive things in this person. And I knew it was going to be hard. So I did. And next thing I know, he's being super nice to me. And to this day, he's super nice to me. Like, he's like, hey, look what I did. Or he makes things for me. He's very crafty. And gets along really well with my husband. And he is actually a really, really kind person. And I ended up realizing that he was just picking on me, and that he usually picks on people when he likes them. And, so what was that about? Who was at fault there? Well, it was because I was constantly on guard, like waiting for him to behave a certain way, like looking for that. I was seeking for that behavior, and I found it. And I was like, oh, there it is, and I would get offended. But then when I started seeking out the positive stuff, I started seeing it, and this man has gone out of his way many times to help me in many different circumstances, and he really is a good person. And if I wouldn't have been seeking out to try to find that in him, I never would have discovered it. So, I just noticed that Jason Beck is on here. Well, hey, Jason. I knew your wife was on here earlier. Anyways, I still have not gotten anybody saying yet whether or not you're a first-time visitor or not. And so I am actually about to log off. And if you haven't, oh, thank you, Deborah. Finally, somebody decided to follow instructions here. Okay, so I'm going to repeat it one more time. There's probably close to 50 people or more on here. And if you have seen my show before and you're watching it right now and you're watching it, put a thumbs up. Okay, so you're watching it live. I would like to, see that, if you're watching it live and you can put a number 1. If it's a replay, number 2. If you watched me before, a thumbs up. And or you've watched it multiple times and you're on now, and you do a thumbs up just like Deborah did. And I think Alice did it as well. So the 2 people. And there's like, I don't even know how many people in this room right now. So lots. So if you don't mind, this is helpful for me to, find out what's going on. There's this thing called Facebook Gel where they kind of keep things from happening, and I'm not really sure exactly what is going on with that. But thank you, Deborah. You just followed instructions. Thank you. I appreciate it. Anybody else, if you are watching it for live, put a 1. If you're watching a replay, put a 2. And if you've watched this before, put a thumbs up. Okay. Anyways, I'm Deborah. I know you just kind of logged in at the last minute, but I'm pretty much about to tally this up. So why don't you watch the replay? We were talking about seeking and you will find. And the universe has an interesting way of always giving you everything you want. So even if you're not trying, so if you're looking for, bad things are going to come your direction. If you're looking for good, good will come in your direction. Anyways, this is Michelle Thompson, and I'm probably going to be going live first thing in the morning. It depends on what time I wake up, but most likely somewhere around 8 or 8:30. So it'll be day 11 tomorrow, and I'm not sure exactly what topic I'm going to talk about yet. I haven't decided. I'm still working on that one. And but you guys, y'all have a wonderful evening and be blessed. Have a wonderful day.